Grief is an emotional experience very few of us want to talk about. It's an emotional experience very few of us are even given space and room to discuss. And especially within the Muslim community, it is one of those things that we are given advice such as have patience, Allah will replace what you lost with that which is better, there is worse going in the world, so and so lost ABC. And when you hear these pieces of advice, which are well-meaning and definitely from a good place, you almost feel as if you have to shut down and can't express your grief. I found it so refreshing when I came across A Place of Refuge by Asma Hussein, and how she opened up about grief in this book. So A Place of Refuge was our Level Up book club read for May and April 2024. April and May 2024, got that backwards. And it was such a refreshing read. It was refreshing to have a book that brought forth the topic of grief in such a candid way, in such a human way, in a way that humanized the experience of grief, something that all of us have to face and all of us face, whether it's from the loss of someone that we know or whether it's from the loss of something or an opportunity. We all grieve to varying degrees, but we all experience this emotion, even if we don't recognize that that's what we're experiencing. So sometimes our grief will express itself in the feeling of anger. And yet if you peel the layer of the anger away, you will see that beneath it is grief. Sometimes it's expressed through frustration. Sometimes it's expressed through sadness. Sometimes it's expressed through what looks like joy, but when you peel it away, it's unprocessed emotion of grief that's manifesting itself in that way. And so I love the fact that Asma brought us into her world, where she showed us what it was really like and talked us through what it was really like to lose her husband. What was really beautiful about this is that we got the benefit of hindsight being 2020, meaning she was out of the throes and the deep rawness of her grief, and she's sharing it with us in this book from a place of retrospection and also from a sisterly position where it's almost as if she's saying, come sis, let me talk you through this experience that you're experiencing, and let me let you know that you are okay, what you're feeling is okay, and you sure as heck are gonna be okay. I love that this book is rooted in hope instead of plastering commands to just be patient. It's really an honest look at the challenges that we can face in the midst of grief. She doesn't tell you how to grieve, because there is no how to grieve in a way that's quote unquote correct. But she does share her experience, and from that you get to excavate the gems of how you too can open up your perspective, how you can allow yourself to be, how you can allow yourself to grow through it, how you can actually start to notice shifts in you through this process, how you can see the mercy of your Lord planted in this test, how you can see and pick up the ease that your Lord has peppered within that test because that's how much He loves you, how you can do that. I found that A Place of Refuge really gave you insight on how not to be when it comes to being around other people and their grief and their grieving, such as not telling people to move on. Why do we tell people to move on often? It's because we are feeling challenged with being in the space of someone else's challenging emotions, and we're not quite sure how to be with it. We're not quite sure how to best support someone through it. And so it's easier to tell people to move on, because in our mind, there is an expiry date on how long someone can be feeling these feelings for. And so we tell them to move on, right? So that's one way not to be. Another is saying that they should be grateful, that they still have so many blessings around them. This is extremely dismissive. It's extremely dismissive, and it points to something that I'll talk a little bit about later, which is the idea of repression. But it also tells person that there is no room for this. There's no room for this, and that means there's no room for them and their emotions with you in what they're feeling. Another way not to be is to not make it about you. It's so easy to feel that when someone is in the bouts of a challenging emotion, that the best way that we can show them that we get what they're feeling, or that we can connect with them in that moment of turmoil, is to cry and to wail and to tell them how much pain we're in and how sad we are about this loss. That then turns that person to feel that they need to start consoling you in the midst of their own grief. They feel that they have to now help you to stop feeling all of these feelings and to help you to get onto dry land, because it looks like you're drowning up in these emotions. That's the worst thing we could do, because in that moment, that person is led to feel they have to abandon themselves and what they're feeling in order to console you, when in reality it's actually their loss. And so it's really important to be mindful of how we can turn an emotional encounter or an emotional time to ourselves and making it about us and our feelings. Now, on the topic of challenging emotions, one of the things that came up in one of our book club meets was the idea of holding on to challenging emotions, or even holding on to the feelings of grief and the identity that it serves. This particular reflection came up for me in a discussion that we had in a book club meet, because there are times, and there can be times, when we are faced with a challenging emotion, when we are grieving something heavy, and we prolong that process because it serves a particular purpose for us. And as I'm saying this, it makes no logical sense, because that's our conscious mind speaking in logic, right? But for the unconscious mind that works entirely with emotions and it doesn't work with logic, it makes complete sense. The idea of holding on to an emotion, holding on to a challenging time, holding on to an old identity because it serves us in some sort of way, not logically, but emotionally. And I found myself reflecting on this because I found that I had been holding on to a particular emotion, not an emotion itself, but an identity that was rooted in a particular feeling of actually just being really tired. And so the identity of this woman who is really tired all the time, that served me because it helped me to get support, which was a really warped way of me dealing with an old behavior or an old challenge of not being able to ask for help. So going from this place of not being able to ask for help and then deciding that, okay, what's the best way to get help is to feel or seem incapable or really challenged. And that served me for a period when I really needed some respite. But I found upon retrospection and introspection that I had been holding on to this and prolonging this because my unconscious mind had decided that that was the best way, or maybe the only way, that I would actually get help and support without having to actually ask for it. Interesting, huh? So this is, I guess, an invitation for you to think about what you might be holding on to, what identities you might be holding on to that once upon a time served you, but are not empowering for you now. They're not serving you now. They're not helping you to level up now. They're not helping you to step into the next best version of yourself now. And what it is that you can draw from that, what's the lesson that you can draw from that will allow you to move forward without having to hold on to this limiting identity or these limiting decisions or these limiting beliefs. Something for you to mull over. But for me, just so that I can kind of help you work through this, if you're going to work through this in your journal, for me, I knew that the idea or the positive intention was to get help and support where and when I needed it, and to vocalize it, to strengthen my throat muscles in saying to those that are near and dear that I'd love some support with ABC. And doing so from an empowered place without feeling I need to relegate myself into a place of feeling tired, or even allowing my unconscious mind to move me into a place of believing that I'm tired in order to get that. So stepping into this empowered position of I am worthy of, and I'm deserving of support, and I'm deserving of help from others. And I don't have to be at rock bottom to be worthy of that. I don't have to be at rock bottom to be deserving of the help and the support. Okay, that was therapy on life. Right, so then moving on. I wanted to bring forth something that Asmat Hussein talks about in the book. The distinction between moving on and moving forward. I love her distinction between moving on and moving forward. And she talks about this from where there were expectations from people that she would move on, that she would get over the death of her husband and that she shouldn't be feeling these feelings anymore. And she mentions in the chapter where she describes her grief as shrinking into this bead that she carries around her neck, and that it's not all encompassing. It doesn't consume her. However, it's something that she carries with her. And she says, at the end of the chapter, she said that the grief that began as a hot stone sizzling in my belly has been whittled away into a small bead that I now carry around my neck. It's true that this bead goes wherever I go, but that's not really the point. The point is, I go. And from this, I really love that she allows herself to recognize that the grief she will carry with her, and she carries it forward. She moves forward with it. Instead of the idea of moving on, which is to bench aside, which is to shelve, which is to carry on without, it is this idea of, I do feel the reality of this loss, and I choose to carry this reality with me so that this loss does not anchor me and freeze me in place. With this feeling, I can acknowledge it, I can recognize it, and I can carry it along with me in my forward journey from this spot. Something that I shared in book club meet is that moving forward and moving on do not have the same connotation. Typically, when you say to someone, move on, you should have moved on, you can't replace that with, oh, come on, you should have moved forward. It's not the same energy. It's not the same implication. It's not the same meaning, because moving on is, in my translation, is to repress. It is to repress. It is to push down, push away, move away, bottle up so you can't get out, so it can't get out, so that it moves into a place of unconsciousness and not dealing with it, not acknowledging it. Whereas moving forward is a recognition, it's an acknowledgement, it's very empowering. It allows you to know that you can continue to take strong, firm, decisive, graceful steps forward with this and amongst this, in spite of this. So it's not a case where you're at a loss within yourself, having gone through a particular challenging time or going through the bouts of grief. You can keep moving because the emotion hasn't frozen you in place. I highly recommend this book. There were so many reflection questions that we actually got to share with each other in our book club. And every time we have a book club meet, there's always a summary of the meet that's posted, as well as the reflection questions from the particular discussions that we have. So if you do want to have access to the reflection questions that we came up with for A Place of Refuge by Asmat Hussain, definitely check out our Level Up book club at layinkasani.com/book club. But here are, let me say, four. Here are 4 reflection questions that I'll give you to take away with you from this podcast. The first is, what losses or experiences have you not allowed yourself yet to properly acknowledge or process? The second is, what have these experiences taught you? And how are you carrying these lessons from these experiences, carrying them forward? The third is, which versions of yourself do you hold on to from the past, and for what purpose? And the fourth would be, what does moving forward look like for you as you rise from a challenge, a test, or through the bouts of grief?